Preface. Mynovabooks presents The Most Breathtaking Natural Landscapes in Spain by Hector Molina Casado. A nonfiction travel essay and visual tour. A one-shot episode that invites you into Spain's wild rooms, misty northern peaks, sunbaked coves, volcanic heights, and otherworldly plateaus. Expect sensory moments, practical travel wisdom, and quiet prompts to slow down and listen to the land. To explore more, please visit mynovabooks.com. The following voice will narrate your audiobook experience.
Hi, I'm Isabel Marquez. I will be the narrator for this story.
Now sit back and enjoy. Now reading The Most Breathtaking Natural Landscapes in Spain.
If Spain is a story, these places are the chapters that make you read on. Sea salt on my lips at dawn. Pine smoke in my hair after a village bar at night. Cold mountain breath pushing hard against my ribs. In less than 2 weeks, I moved through 5 places that felt like 5 different countries, stitched together by old pilgrim ways, fishermen's coves, and high shepherd traditions. 5 names I still carry like dog-eared pages: Picos de Europa, Cabodegata, La Palma, Bardenasrealesdesert, Ordesaymonteperdido. Pack layers and curiosity. Leave space in your plans for unplanned pauses and quiet conversations. We begin high and misty in the north, Picos de Europa. I woke to a sea of clouds running down the limestone like a slow white waterfall. A cold thrill ran through me, awe and hunger coiling in my chest. Mist touched my cheeks like cold fingers. Each step made the scrape of boot leather on wet rock. Somewhere in the fog, a horse exhaled, a soft, steamy sigh. A church bell rang once, then again, its sound muffled and close, as if the valley were holding its breath. I followed a narrow path that once carried pilgrims and shepherds between villages like Cangas de Onís and Covadonga. Under my boots, the trail shifted from slick rock to loose scree and back again. A small, dark horse stood beside a weathered stone wall and watched me pass, its mane wet from the mist. From a rise, I could see the lakes of Covadonga lying still and flat, like 2 mirrors holding the sky. These mountains are working land. In summer, families still move their herds up to high pastures, the brañas. At one hamlet, a shepherd balanced his coffee on a low wall and traced routes on my map with a cracked fingertip. He laughed and said, in Spanish, that here the weather changes in a minute. I wrote a note to myself. Pack layers. The light and temperature change within minutes. Cowbells drifted up from the fog. Somewhere below, blue Cabrales cheese was aging in cold limestone caves while clouds slid past the cliffs above Torre Cerredo. The rock, the work, the weather, all of it felt tied together. Below those peaks, the coast opens in a different light. Cabodegata. Cabodegata surprised me with cliffs that still remembered fire and coves that kept their turquoise as a secret. The air was suddenly hot and dry. Sun-baked thyme, crushed under my boots, released a warm, resinous scent. Black and ochre cliffs, born from old volcanoes, dropped straight into water that shone an impossible blue. Basalt under my hand held the day's heat like a battery. I followed a dusty path through low scrub toward a cala hidden between headlands. Find the coves on foot. A quiet hour is a small reward. From above, the cove looked like a cut gem, turquoise set into dark rock. Down on the shore, small waves rolled over pebbles with a metallic click as they pulled back, as if someone were gently shaking a bag of coins. In a whitewashed fishing hamlet, nets lay in the shade like sleeping animals. A woman sat mending them, by memory more than sight. Without looking up, she told me she had always known the rocks by feel, not by GPS. She fried a few sardines in a blackened pan and, when she saw me watching, tore off a piece of bread and pushed one toward me. The fish tasted of pure salt and smoke and sun. The taste lingered, a simple anchor in a sea of bright, shifting light. From that white glaze of sunlight, I flew to an island that keeps its nights close. La Palma. La Palma is a forest and a sky-burnished edge all at once. On La Palma, the forest swallowed the path, and at the summit, the sky scattered diamonds. In the laurel forest, the air felt heavy and green. Damp laurel leaves brushed my arms and face. The ground under my boots was soft with wet leaves and pads of moss, every step releasing the earthy smell of rot and rain. Every few seconds, a drop of water fell from the canopy with a soft tick onto black volcanic soil. Higher up, the forest opened and the trail turned dark and granular. Black volcanic sand and rough lava rock crunched underfoot along the Ruta de los Volcanes. I followed a narrow ridge and looked down into old craters where new Canary Island pines were already taking root, bright green against red and black ash. An altitude cold sharpened my voice. Words came out thin and clear in the thin air. Breath caught, and I felt both tiny and alive, as if the sky pressed closer. La Palma is still changing, reshaped by eruptions like the recent one on Cumbre Vieja. Farmers here read the weather in the birds and the color of the sea. They talk about ash as if it were another season. Bring a jacket and check stargazing access. The summit is fragile and regulated. Toward sunset, I drove up to Roque de los Muchachos, near the island's observatory domes. Above the clouds, the air turned hard and cold. A quiet humility settled in my chest. I felt small, and in that smallness, a fierce gratitude. When darkness came, it came fast. The sky filled with so many stars that the idea of empty space stopped making sense. The Milky Way arched overhead like spilled milk on dark stone, a river of white fire flowing above a black ocean. After that black sky, I found a place that looked as if the earth had been remade. Bardenas Reales. Bardenas felt like stepping into a planet someone painted with clay and wind. Back on the mainland, in Navarre, the green faded and the land turned pale. Clay and sandstone had been carved by water and wind into soft plateaus, sharp ridges, and lone towers like the famous Castil de Tierra. Colors ran from cream to rust, striped in clean bands. Even in the cool of early morning, a baking heat already shimmered above the flats. I arrived just after sunrise. Shoot sunrise or sunset for the sculpted light. Bring water and sun protection. Every step sent up a small puff of fine dust that settled on my boots and lips. The ground felt brittle underfoot, clay breaking with a dry crunch. The wind blew steadily, making a low humming sound as it passed through shallow gullies. Far off, a single raptor circled, calling into the empty space. There were almost no trees, almost no houses, only a few distant farm buildings and ruined stone shelters. Faint tracks of sheep and tire marks crossed the flats, traces of people who had learned to work with almost no water. The silence felt wide and a little unreal, as if any loud word might crack the landscape. Turn your back on that empty horizon and you'll meet a canyon that keeps water like a secret. A chill ran through me, an invitation to listen rather than conquer. Ordesaymonteperdido. Ordesa opened like a green throat, waterfalls corrected my pace, and the canyon answered in echoes. From the desert I drove toward the Pyrenees, until the flat land broke and lifted into mountains again. The main valley, reached from the village of Torla, is a classic U-shaped glacial canyon. Limestone walls rise straight up on either side and catch the light in pale stacked layers. I started walking from the meadow at the valley floor, following the path toward the Cola de Caballo, the horse's tail waterfall. The air smelled of pine, wet earth, and cold stone. Moss and tiny alpine flowers softened the edges of the trail. Streams crossed the path, clear and icy over rounded stones. As the valley narrowed, The rhythm of falling water grew from a murmur to a roar, and my footsteps automatically slowed to match it. Respect the trails. Check conditions. Wear solid boots. Refuges, old shepherd routes, and small seasonal communities are scattered through these mountains, human scale pressed up against immense rock. At the final waterfall, the river burst out in a white curtain. Cold spray hit my face and soaked the front of my jacket. The canyon walls threw back the sound in overlapping echoes. Above, vultures traced slow circles against the sky. A local hiker beside me, who said she had been coming here since she was a child, tapped the rock and said, "These walls remember everything." I felt a tremor of awe, a share of the local hiker's certainty. In that moment, my voice lifted without meaning to, caught between the roar of the water and the sheer height of the stone. From mist-soaked mountains and black volcano ridges to turquoise seas, pale desert, and echoing canyons, Spain keeps surprising you. And that's exactly the kind of surprise worth seeking. In my memory, it all compresses into one breath. Mist, turquoise, star diamond, clay spire, falling water. Think misty limestone ridges in the Picos de Europa, cowbells ringing out of the fog, and the clip-clop of hardy horses on old pilgrim paths. Come early for the first light and quieter trails. Picture cabodegata, volcanic cliffs dropping into turquoise coves and the cry of gulls. Walk to the calas at dawn when the sand is still cool and the water is glass calm. On La Palma, pine-scented forests fall away to night skies so dense with stars they feel touchable. Consider a guided stargazing walk after a day on the volcanic ridges. In Bardenasrealesdesert, ochre boots and wind-sculpted ridges, red like a miniature Mars, carry plenty of water, shield yourself from the sun, and keep to marked tracks to protect fragile soils. And in ordesaymonteperdido, a canyon that drops into alpine waterfalls and wildflower meadows, pick a trail suited to your fitness, and for the steeper balcony paths, think about hiring a local guide. Each landscape feels written in different inks: lava, limestone, wind, and water, and each has its own human rhythm. Shepherds' coats, fishermen's nets, pilgrim stones, farmers reading the wind. Spain's wild places are not empty, they are full of work and memory, and visiting them is a privilege. Go curious and leave no trace. Slow down, hire local guides when you can, stick to the trails, and leave these places better than you found them. Pick one of these landscapes this year: a weekend hike, a starry night, a coastal swim, and start small. Check seasons, pack water and layers, and ask at the visitor center or park website what the land needs from you. Most of all, give yourself time. Find one spot, sit down, and listen for a full minute. The land will begin to tell you its story.
End of The Most Breathtaking Natural Landscapes in Spain. Outro. Thank you for joining us and listening to The Most Breathtaking Natural Landscapes in Spain, written by Hector Molina Casado and narrated by Isabel Marquez. We appreciate you taking this journey through Spain's remarkable scenery with us. If you enjoyed this book, be sure to visit mynovabooks.com for more great selections. Thank you again for your time, and we hope you discover many more wonderful stories ahead.